Imagine sitting in your living room. It's a quiet evening. Your children are upstairs in bed. Suddenly, you hear a noise. A heavy, dragging sound, like furniture being moved across the floor. You run upstairs. You burst into the bedroom. You expect to see your children playing. You expect to see them out of bed, but they are terrified, huddled under the covers. And then, right in front of your eyes, a heavy chest of drawers, solid oak, weighing over 50 pounds, slides across the floor by itself. It moves 4 feet. Then it stops. You try to push it back, but you can't. It's stuck. An invisible force is holding it in place. This isn't a scene from a movie. This is the official report from a police constable who visited 284 Green Street in Enfield, London. Police officers are trained to deal with burglars. They are trained to deal with violence. They are not trained to deal with chairs that float in midair. Welcome to the true story of the Enfield Poltergeist, the haunting that didn't just scare a family, scared the entire world. The year is 1977. The location is Enfield, a quiet suburb in North London. At 284 Green Street lived the Hodgson family. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother, and her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy. It started on the night of August 30th. Just small things at first. Janet, who was 11 years old, and her brother Johnny complained that their beds were shaking. Peggy, like any tired mother, told them to stop playing around and go to sleep. But the next night, the activity escalated. Peggy heard a loud crash from the bedroom. She ran upstairs. The children were screaming. They pointed at a heavy chest of drawers. Peggy watched in disbelief as the heavy furniture began to shuffle across the floor, as if invisible hands were dragging it. She tried to push it back against the wall, but the force pushed back. She was fighting against something she couldn't see. Panic set in. She grabbed the kids and ran to the neighbors. They called the police. Now, usually when police arrive at a haunted house, they find nothing. They tell the family to calm down and they leave. But Constable Caroline Heaps saw something she would never forget. In her official police report, which you can still read today, she wrote that she witnessed a dining chair levitate off the floor and move across the room. She checked for wires. She checked for magnets. She found nothing. The police left that night, terrified. They told Peggy, "We can't help you. This isn't a crime. This is something else." With nowhere else to turn, the family contacted the press. The Daily Mirror sent a reporter and a photographer. They were skeptics. They thought it was a hoax, until the photographer was hit in the head by a flying Lego brick, until he captured a photo of Janet being thrown out of her bed by an unseen force. This attracted the attention of the Society for Psychical Research. They sent 2 investigators, Morris Grass and Guy Lyon Playfair. These 2 men would spend the next 2 years living with the family, documenting over 2,000 unexplained incidents. What they saw was straight out of a nightmare. Marbles and toys would fly around the room at high speeds. But here is the strange part. When the objects hit people, they didn't hurt. It was as if they slowed down right before impact. Fires would start spontaneously in drawers. Matches would ignite by themselves. Curtains would twist around people's necks like snakes. Morris Grass, an experienced investigator, set up high-tech audio equipment. One night, he heard a loud banging noise. It sounded like a sledgehammer hitting the walls. He asked the entity to communicate. Knock once for yes, knock twice for no. The walls knocked back, but the knocking was just the beginning. The entity was getting stronger. It was feeding on the fear of the children, especially 11-year-old Janet. This is the part of the story that chills me to the bone. The entity began to speak, but not through the air. It spoke through Janet. Janet would go into a trance-like state. Her body would stiffen, and then a voice would come out of her mouth. But it wasn't the voice of an 11-year-old girl. It was the voice of a grumpy old man. It was deep, raspy, and full of anger. We still have the actual recordings today. The voice claimed to be a man named Bill Wilkins. He said things like, "Just before I died, I went blind, and then I had a hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died in the chair in the corner." Investigators were skeptical. Was Janet faking it? They hired a professional ventriloquist to examine her. He watched her while the voice spoke. He said it was impossible. Her lips weren't moving enough to produce those sounds. They tested her vocal cords. Scientists said that for a little girl to maintain that deep, rough voice for hours, she would destroy her throat. But Janet's throat was fine. Then, the investigators did some research. They looked into the history of the house. They found out that a man named Bill Wilkins had lived in that house years ago. They found his death certificate. Bill Wilkins died of a brain hemorrhage. He died sitting in his favorite armchair in the corner of the living room, exactly as the voice had described. How could an 11-year-old girl know the medical details of a man who died before she was even born? As the story went global, the skeptics arrived. Everyone had a theory. Some said Janet was just looking for attention. Some said the mother, Peggy, was creating the hoax to get a better house from the council. There were moments where Janet was caught faking. Yes, you heard that right. Video cameras once caught Janet bending a spoon with her hands and trying to hide it. When asked why she did it, Janet said, "The ghost wouldn't talk that day, and Mr. Grass and Mr. Playfair were waiting. I didn't want to disappoint them." Skeptics used this to say the whole thing was a lie. But Morris Grass defended her. He said, just because she faked 2% of the activity doesn't explain the other 98%. How did she rip a cast iron fireplace out of the wall? How did she make a police officer see a chair float? How did she know about Bill Wilkins? This controversy is what makes Enfield so fascinating. It wasn't perfect. It was messy. It was real. The case became so famous that it attracted Ed and Lorraine Warren, the American demonologists. You might know them from the Conjuring movies. In the movie, the Warrens are the heroes who save the day. In reality, they only visited Enfield for a few days. Lorraine Warren was convinced it was demonic. She said she saw the spirit of the old man, and behind him, something much darker. She believed the negative energy in the house was feeding off the emotional turmoil of the family, single mother, a missing father, teenage hormones. It was a perfect storm for a poltergeist. Eventually, the activity started to fade. It didn't end with a big exorcism like in the movies. It just got quieter. As Janet grew up, the ghost seemed to lose interest. Or maybe it just went dormant. Janet Hodgson is now an adult. She has given interviews. She still stands by her story. She says, I know what happened. I know it was real. I was used by something I didn't understand. She describes the feeling of being possessed as cold, like floating on water. She says the voice didn't come from her throat. It came from behind her neck. So, what really happened at 284 Green Street? Was it a clever hoax by two bored teenage girls who managed to fool the police, the press, and the scientists? If so, they are the greatest actresses in history. Or did they tap into something else? Did they open a door that allowed Bill Wilkins and perhaps something darker to step through? The house is still there today. People still live in it. The current owners claim it is quiet. But sometimes neighbors say they hear noises, knocking on the walls, furniture dragging. The Enfield Poltergeist remains the most documented case in paranormal history. It has audio evidence, it has photographic evidence, it has police witnesses, and it leaves us with one terrifying thought. We like to think our homes are our sanctuaries, safe places where we can lock the doors and keep the world out. But what if the intruder isn't outside? What if he is already sitting in the armchair in the corner, waiting for you to turn off the lights? Thanks for watching. If you believe the tapes are real, let me know in the comments. And if you're brave enough, share this video with a friend. I'll see you in the dark.